Rain hammered the city streets as Angela Carter clutched her burning, feverish son against her chest, every step a desperate plea for mercy. But mercy was nowhere to be found in the sterile halls of Westbrook Memorial Hospital. There, wealth dictated worth, and Angela, a poor black woman, had neither. Dr. Richard Hayes looked at her not as a mother in crisis, but as a nuisance. And in that moment of cruel dismissal, something deep within her broke, and something stronger began to grow. The rain came down in angry sheets that night, soaking Angela Carter to the bone as she ran down the empty street, her 7-year-old son limp and burning with fever in her arms. "Hold on, baby, just hold on," she whispered, voice cracking against the storm. Michael's breaths were shallow, his skin slick with sweat. Every few steps his small body trembled, and her heart shattered all over again. When the towering glass doors of Westbrook Memorial Hospital slid open, Angela stumbled inside, dripping rain onto the polished marble floor. The lobby gleamed, bright lights, spotless walls, and a silence that screamed money. She was out of place here, and everyone knew it. "I need a doctor," she gasped to the receptionist. "Please, my son. He's burning up. He needs help now." The woman behind the desk gave her a long, measured look, her manicured fingers pausing above the keyboard. "Do you have insurance?" Angela shook her head. "No, but I can pay a little. I just need someone to see him. Please." The receptionist's polite smile didn't reach her eyes. "Without coverage or a deposit, there's nothing we can do." "I said I'll pay something," Angela cried, desperation rising. "Please, he's just a child." "Ma'am," the woman interrupted coldly, "we're not a charity." Moments later, Dr. Richard Hayes appeared, tall, impeccably dressed, the kind of man used to being obeyed. He glanced at Michael briefly, then back at Angela with detached annoyance. "This boy needs attention," Angela pleaded. "He's burning up. Please, sir, I'm begging you." Dr. Hayes sighed, adjusting his stethoscope like she was wasting his time. "If you cannot afford treatment, I suggest you try a county hospital. This facility isn't equipped for charity cases." The words cut deeper than the rain ever could. Angela's chest tightened, humiliation and rage twisting inside her. "He's a child," she whispered. "Would you turn your own child away?" Hayes looked through her like she was invisible. "Security will escort you out." The receptionist stood, gesturing toward the door. Angela clutched Michael tighter, tears mixing with the rain still dripping from her hair. As they pushed her back into the storm, the glass doors sliding shut behind her, the world suddenly felt colder than ever. She stood under the flickering streetlight, her son trembling in her arms. Her heart was breaking, but beneath the sorrow, something else stirred. A promise, a vow. "This isn't the end," she whispered into Michael's hair, rain streaking her cheeks like war paint. "I swear, it's not the end." And as she walked into the darkness, barefoot, penniless, and drenched, something fierce had begun to take root. Something Dr. Hayes would one day regret. The night they were thrown out of Westbrook Hospital left a scar that never faded. Michael recovered slowly, thanks to a kind nurse at a free clinic on the other side of town. But for Angela Carter, something far deeper had been wounded. Not just pride, but the belief that the world would ever see her or her son as worthy. The following months were a blur of exhaustion and survival. Angela took 2 jobs, one mopping floors at a downtown office building until midnight, another scrubbing toilets in a diner before dawn. Her hands cracked from bleach, her back ached, but quitting was never an option. Every dollar she earned went to Michael's medicine, school supplies, and the tiny one-room apartment they called home. The world did not make it easy. "People like you should be grateful for what you get," her supervisor muttered one night when she asked for an extra hour's pay. At the grocery store, she felt eyes follow her, security guards trailing her down aisles. At parent-teacher meetings, other mothers smiled politely, but stepped aside as if her struggle were contagious. Angela swallowed every insult in silence, not because she was weak, but because rage alone wouldn't change their future. "We're going to rise, baby," she whispered to Michael each night as he slept. "One day they'll have to look us in the eye," and she meant it. On weekends, after cleaning shifts that left her barely standing, Angela walked into the public library and sat at a dusty computer. She taught herself about healthcare policies, business management, and nonprofit law. The dream was faint at first, just a stubborn spark, but it grew brighter with every page she read. Years rolled by. Michael grew tall and sharp-minded, his mother's resilience shaping his soul. He excelled in school, speaking openly about injustice and compassion. "I'm going to be a doctor one day," he told her at 12, eyes burning with purpose, "and I'll never turn anyone away." Angela smiled, her heart swelling. "Then you'll finish the story I started." By Michael's 18th birthday, That faint spark had become a foundation. Angela launched a small community health clinic in a rented storefront, a place where no one would ever be turned away for being poor, or black, or forgotten. It was modest, but it was hers, and word spread fast about the woman who understood pain and offered hope. Still, late at night, when the clinic lights dimmed and the streets fell silent, Angela often thought of that rain-soaked night and the doctor who shut the door in her face. It wasn't revenge she sought anymore. It was something bigger. And soon, the world that once rejected her would have no choice but to meet her on equal ground. 10 years had passed, but Richard Hayes barely recognized the man staring back at him in the bathroom mirror. His temples had gone gray, and deep grooves etched the corners of his once confident eyes. The name Dr. Richard Hayes had once commanded respect, whispered in hospital halls, printed in glossy medical journals. Now it appeared most often in lawsuit filings and angry newspaper headlines. A malpractice suit 3 years earlier had gutted his savings. Another, filed by the grieving family of a patient, had dragged his reputation through the mud. Wealthy patients who once lined up for his expertise now avoided his clinic like a plague. One by one his colleagues distanced themselves. He had spent decades building his empire, and it had all come crashing down in a handful of humiliating years. So when he saw the job posting for senior medical director at the Carter Health Foundation, he barely hesitated. The nonprofit had exploded in size over the last few years, building clinics across the city and earning praise for its compassionate care. It wasn't the prestigious hospital he once ruled, but it was a lifeline, and Hayes needed one. Just one interview, he muttered, straightening his tie in the mirror. One chance to start over. The Carter Foundation headquarters was sleek and modern, buzzing with activity. Hayes signed in at reception, trying not to notice the wary glances from younger doctors who recognized him. "This way, Dr. Hayes," the assistant said with a polite smile, leading him toward a glass-walled conference room. He stepped inside, rehearsed greetings on his lips, and froze. At the head of the table sat Angela Carter. Time had changed her too, but he knew her instantly. Gone was the exhausted woman in rain-soaked clothes. In her place sat a poised, confident leader in a navy blazer, flanked by board members. Her eyes met his, calm and unreadable, and Hayes felt the blood drain from his face. "Dr. Hayes," she said evenly. "Thank you for coming." His throat tightened. It can't be her. But it was. The memory of that night, the crying child, the rain, his own dismissive words, crashed over him. He swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Ms. Carter, I didn't realize that I'd be here," she finished for him, still calm. "Neither did I." Silence stretched. His heart pounded. This was supposed to be his chance to rebuild. But now the woman whose suffering he once dismissed was the one deciding if he'd get it. And as she opened the folder in front of her, Hayes realized something terrifying. This interview would be about far more than just a job. For a long moment, no one in the room spoke. The ticking of the wall clock echoed like a drumbeat as Dr. Richard Hayes shifted nervously in his chair, his palms damp against the leather armrests. Across from him, Angela Carter sat perfectly still, fingers interlaced, gaze unwavering. The last time they'd stood this close, he had ordered security to drag her out into the rain. Now she could end his career with a single word. "Ms. Carter," Hayes began, his voice unsteady. I don't know what to say." "Try," she replied softly. He swallowed hard, his carefully rehearsed speech scattering like leaves in the wind. "I was wrong. That night, I was arrogant and cruel. I told myself I was just following policy. But the truth is, I didn't see you. I didn't want to see you." Angela didn't speak. Her silence pressed on him heavier than any lecture could. "I've lost so much since then," he continued, his voice cracking. "My practice, my reputation, my sense of who I was. I never forgot your face. Or your boys." He looked down, shame burning through him. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it." Angela leaned back slightly, studying the man who had once dismissed her like nothing. She had imagined this moment countless times, imagined screaming at him, humiliating him, watching him beg. But none of it felt right now. The woman sitting here wasn't the same one who had stood crying under the streetlight 10 years ago. "You're right," she said at last. "You don't deserve forgiveness. Not from me. But maybe—" She paused, glancing at the mission statement etched on the wall behind her. "You can earn it from them." Hayes looked up, confused. "Them? The people who walk into our free clinic every day. The ones who don't have insurance. The ones you once turned away." Her eyes softened, but her tone remained firm. "You want a position here? You'll serve there. Every day. No private suites, no VIP patients. Just people, real people, who need you. A silence followed. Then, slowly, Hayes nodded. I'll do it, he whispered. I want to do it. Angela opened a folder, signed the contract with a flourish, and slid it across the table. Then, welcome to the Carter Health Foundation, Dr. Hayes. As he stared at the paper, his future written beneath her name, Hayes felt something unfamiliar rise in his chest. Not humiliation, not defeat, something closer to hope. And as Angela watched him leave the room, she realized this wasn't the revenge she'd once dreamed of. It was something far greater.